Meg survived a traumatic experience. She was kidnapped and kept locked up for months. She was physically and mentally abused. She managed to free herself, but the reverberations of her pain and fear are still with her, haunting her with frightening visions. To help her start over, her husband Scott offers Meg some time at his family's country house, but there the situation only gets worse. Scott's cousin Madeline, who has been visiting couple, shows a masterclass in passive aggression, and it seems that their relationship with Scott is much closer than siblings are supposed to be. And worst of all, Meg no longer knows if she can trust her own husband. The last decade has seen an increasing number of female filmmakers enter the horror genre, and while many of them choose the path of safe and toothless social critique, exploiting stories of bad evil men stealing the wind of free independent women, there are others. Those who don't retell in their own words paragraphs from the feminism playbook, but attempt to tell familiar stories by putting them through the unfamiliar prism of the female gaze. Somewhere Quiet is a brilliant example of this approach. Screenwriter and director Olivia Lloyd came up with the idea for this movie when she was thinking about what awaits the so-called final girls of a typical horror movie, those who survived a collision with absolute evil. Of course, these memories can't go away, and movies usually show such traumas with brutal flashbacks, but Lloyd removes that top obvious layer and digs deeper. In her movie there is almost nothing about the period when Meg was in captivity, information about what happened to her, we splice from scraps of randomly dropped phrases. Meg doesn't have nightmares about her captivity, she lives in the here and now, but the worst part is that the here and now doesn't seem safe anymore. The main thing that keeps Meg from going back to her past life is fear and paranoia. It's understandable that now she scrupulously checks whether windows and doors are closed and reacts to every sound, but much worse that her whole life has become a struggle with doubts. Does her husband really care for her, or is he pursuing some agenda of his own? How to perceive the intrusion of his noisy and assertive cousin, as violation of personal boundaries or a sincere desire to help a broken person to return to normal life. Meg sees strange figures in the woods, her husband Scott sleepwalks and then denies it. The woman is constantly, endlessly confronted with some small inconsistent details that scratch, stuck inside her with splinters of doubt. Many movies that take this kind of psychological approach to the story fall apart in the finale, unable to find answers to the questions they themselves have raised. Fortunately, Somewhere Quiet passes this test with flying colors. In the finale we are treated to an unexpected twist that brings the plot into the realm of metaphors, but metaphors that are concrete and understandable, ones that are incredibly interesting to comprehend and twist in your head, fitting them together. Like puzzle pieces, which by themselves seem like a disparate set of random pieces, but when the context appears, they become important parts of a single picture. Somewhere Quiet is quite modestly shot, but very effectively directed and acted out. There is no horror as such in this movie, but a vague sense of unease is present almost constantly, to Lloyd's undoubted credit as a director. Jennifer Kim in the title role perfectly copes with the role of the constantly tense Meg. Kentucker Audley as her husband exudes vibes of psychological abuse. But the main acting trump card of the movie is Marin as Madeline, who builds the most vivid image of a sunny bitch, behind the wide smile of which you can feel the piercing gaze of a predator, patiently waiting for a chance to attack.